Summit that is currently being held at the Kenyatta International Convention Center following that particular town hall yesterday evening, where the president spearheaded that particular initiative. Currently, I'm being informed that there is a panel discussion that is ongoing. Remember, earlier on, Mama Rachel Ruto had the opportunity to also speak to the congregants there. Listen in to the conversations now.
Court deaths and births. We'll even go a step further. But one of them is digitization, and one is forms. It's true. It had its challenges. We've worked very hard to the teething. But for payment comes and money to pay. The bills having enables providers to and for some dialysis, insurer and the I know many places where they dialysis, the amount that is usually many of us beyond the sharp price. So people who have alive, channeling, and B, allowing private providers them as providers. Kenyans have access.
Just in 1 minute. So, the Deputy President has just, the President mentioned about primary. Counties are here. They have met that level, level 2, level 3, 27 billion, 23. How do we shift the sector to invest in 70% of PHC? We still do very less cardiac surgery. The mindset of private sector no longer just open up a clinic, pay very high rent, and see the same Homa that the government has already invested at the village level. Just in 1 minute.
Our biggest job is to fill whatever gaps are left after the counties and the national government have provided service. So what you're anticipating is already happening. Many of our facilities, including the one I lead, are moving into more specialized care, renal, cancer, heart transplantation, and key areas we are investing in. A lot of traffic going out of country. And it's now policy that here, close to home, their relatives. And there is the money to investing a lot more in. I myself have brought the first knee surgery in East, and we've already operated on 13 patients. They have gone out of the country, and they have come in. So as KU does CyberKnife, Aga Khan is doing something else that is also quite.
Well, if you're just joining us this afternoon, that is a conversation that is happening at the Kenyatta International Convention Center. Day 2 of the Health Summit that kick-started yesterday after it was opened by President William Ruto, also following a town hall yesterday evening. The conversation currently being spearheaded by the country's second-in-command, that is Professor Kithure Kindiki. Our very own Nancy Okware is attending that particular session. Today is the last day, and of course will brief us in our subsequent bulletins. To more news now, Auditor General Nancy Gathungu has cautioned governors against leaving pending bills as they exit office next year at the end of their tenure. Gathungu decried what she termed as perennial problems bedeviling counties as a result of governors leaving behind liabilities to be handled by their successors, hence affecting service delivery to Kenyans.
Speaking in Nanyuki, Laikipia County during a stakeholders engagement, Gathungu warned that failing to settle pending bills was undermining the country's economy. The Auditor General remarks came at a backdrop of sharp criticism against Laikipia Governor Joshua Irungu over claims of failing to pay more than 1.3 billion shillings owed to contractors and suppliers who did business with his predecessor, Ndiritu Muriithi.
This morning I had a meeting with the county assemblies, the county assembly of Laikipia, and we did agree on how they can look at the audit reports, discuss them and make recommendations within the short timeline before we go into elections so that they can hold the county public entities to account. We've agreed on a plan of action. And I have communicated that plan of action to the governor because he is overseeing quite a number of county government entities.
In a rejoinder, Governor Irungu said that his administration was committed to paying all pending bills owed to the county for the period of 5 years, which he revealed was budgeted in the 2026-2027 financial year.
What we have been doing is only to pay the previous pending bills that have been there, but we have making sure that the pending bill for the last financial years, we don't have any pending bill. And one of the critical area is to ensure that we have matched our own source revenue, which has contributed to most of the pending bill.
Joseph Wahungu for Lunchtime News.
And on the political front, Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya and Bumula Member of Parliament Jack Wamboka are now calling for the prosecution of Homa Bay Town MP Peter Kaluma for being responsible for the violence meted out against Linda Mwananchi movement leaders in Homa Bay County. Both leaders further demanded that the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission (IEBC) ban leaders involved in violence. With residents of the Homa Bay County still coming to terms with the chaotic scenes witnessed in the area that left 4 dead and 40 more injured.
You are so easy to be used without your mesmerized by power.
Political bigwigs in the country continue to accuse one another of organizing and financing the violence on Sunday.
Oversee chaos like those and retire with your dignity intact.
Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya and Bumula Member of Parliament Jack Wamboka now claim that the chaotic scenes witnessed in Homa Bay County was fought against one of their leaders allied to the Linda Mwananchi faction.
Na kama unataka hivyo rule of the jungle ikuwe sawa, kila mtu ajitetee. Mumetupiga Homa Bay, sisi pia tulikuwa na mkono, tulitembea nayo kabisa. And all this you are doing by the way they are being documented. The international community is in this country.
Still with the Homa Bay incident, grassroots leaders of the Jubilee Mashinani Party in Kajiado County have strongly condemned the violence witnessed in the devolved unit over the weekend, which resulted in deaths and injuries.
Tunataka kukashifu kama vijana wa Jubilee kilichotendeka Homa Bay. It cannot be every time the people who suffer most are the young people in this country.
Kati mtu afanye siasa yake mzuri na aende nyumbani. Wewe pia nenda ufanye mahali unataka kufanya. We are all free Kenyans to do politics anywhere in this Kenya.
Political competition is not a license for insult and disrespect for our party leader. Wachaneni na Uhuru Kenyatta kabisa.
Meanwhile, Kiambu Governor Kimani Wamatangi has said he remains committed to delivering on his promises to the people of Kiambu despite what he described as massive intimidation by a section of leaders from the region.
Nimeambia watu nyinyi mumechaguliwa, wacha kunyemelea hutu tushamba tudogodogo ambaye tunajengea watoto mashule, ambaye tunafanyia watu huduma za wananchi. Nikiambia watu wakae namna hiyo wanasema huyu jamaa anafanya sisi tuende nyumbani bila kitu.
Finally, elders of the Agikuyu community, Kiama, Kikuyu Council of Elders in Mount Kenya region, are expected to give political directions to the electorate in the coming general election of 2027 after a large number of politicians sought guidance from them.
Si tunataka mtu mwenye uadilifu, mtu mwenye hawezi kuikatili jamii. Mtu mwenye atakuwa anapeleka jamii vile wanataka, akiwa na mashaka anarudi kwetu.
Still on the political front, calls for political tolerance ahead of next year's general election continue to be made, with the clergy in Kisumu urging for peaceful political engagement across the country. Speaking during a church crusade in the lakeside city. The religious leaders urged the political class to shun political violence, citing the deadly confrontation witnessed in Homa Bay over the weekend. The youth were also urged to be wary of politicians who exploit their vulnerability for selfish political gains.
The trajectory that the nation is taking is very bad politically, because much of intolerance we have experienced in this nation. Coming down to our region in Nyanza, this is something that we've never experienced before. After the death of Baba Raila Amolo Odinga, now we can see this happening in our nation. This must come to an end.
We need to realize that even though we have differences, and we have different perspectives and different emphasis that we have, we still have the common bond and the common denominator of Christ.
Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs, that is Dr. Musalia Mudavadi, has held talks with a delegation of the Turkey-Kenya Parliamentary Friendship Group focusing on strengthening bilateral ties in trade, investment, aviation, tourism and regional security. Mudavadi highlighted Kenya's potential to attract investment from Turkish businesses, citing agricultural, manufacturing and infrastructural opportunities. He further proposed stronger aviation ties through collaboration between the Turkish Airlines and Kenya Airways. The two sides urged a partnership beyond diplomacy through people-to-people relations and joint efforts to combat terrorism and violent extremism.
We can increase our trade volumes. Right now, combined, it's about $600 million annually. We can do more. The prolonged conflicts, both on the Horn of Africa and in the Middle East, will have a very serious impact on the possibility of entrenching illicit arms trade and dangerous movements, which can affect the stability of many countries. So we must collectively do what we can to ensure that we can intervene positively.
Youth in Nyeri County are increasingly embracing competency-based education and hands-on training in beauty therapy and hairdressing, driven by rising demand for skilled professionals in high-end beauty parlors in Nyeri, Nairobi and neighboring towns. Now, Madenge Technical Training Institute Chief Principal Catherine Gikonyo says more than 200 youths are currently enrolled in cosmetology training, with the number expected to double during the September intake. The rising enrollment has prompted the institution to improve and equip its lecture halls to accommodate more trainees.
From 50 trainees, which was last year, currently to 200, to a population of 200, and more are coming, because we are trying to place our trainees in high-end salons and beauty spas in Mombasa, Nairobi, Nyeri, Nakuru, and also we get for them attachments. We also do dual training.
Elsewhere, students and young people in Dagoretti South are benefiting from digital skills trainings at the Jitume Digital Hub as they seek to tap into opportunities in the growing online job markets. Dagoretti South MP and Parliamentary Committee on ICT Chairperson John Kiari has praised the government for establishing the hubs to equip young people with digital skills. The initiative is also supporting technical training, with PC Kinyanjui Technical Training Institute becoming the first Kenyan TVET institution to reach the regional finals of the 2026 Huawei ICT competition in South Africa. The institution emerged third in the network track, with a student Steve Mutisia and a trainer Philip Omondi leading the team, which was later honored by President William Ruto at State House, Nairobi.
I also recognize PC Kinyanjui Technical Training College, whose team became the first Kenyan TVET institution ever to qualify for the regional finals of this competition.
It's the first time ever for a TVET institution reaching the Huawei ICT competition, regional finals, representing networking track.
In South Africa at the international competition,
Now, residents of Matsangoni, Kilifi County are demanding that the government improves accessibility of tuberculosis TB testing facilities in local areas as they are forced to travel long distances to access these services. Speaking to journalists during TB testing exercise organized by a health center in collaboration with Kilifi County, the residents claimed the distance forces many individuals to delay testing or stay home, worsening health outcomes despite free treatment policies.
Kuchukua hata kuwa na pesa, pengine kuchukua pikipiki aje mpaka hapa, wengine hawawezi, lakini tukiwa na hizo outreaches huko nyanjani itakuwa vizuri zaidi.
Some members of the community cannot manage to travel here and there. Others, they have such a belief that if you go far from home, they will actually become more sick.
My urge to all of us is just to buy in the idea and go for the screening so that we know ourselves.
Now, for families in Funyula, Busia County, access to quality healthcare can mean the difference between a timely treatment and costly referrals. At the Nangina Mission Hospital, the Awori Foundation is partnering with the facility to strengthen healthcare through the renovation of a pediatric ward, special aid services and a medical outreach camp for families who will otherwise not be able to access the much-needed healthcare services. Mariambo now reports.
For Mary Tucker, caring for her grandchild has been a struggle. Poor nutrition meant weight loss and recurrent illness.
Nikimpeleka hospitali, walisema ni pneumonia. Wakatibu pneumonia, haikuisha. Wakakuja wakatibu malaria, haikuisha.
Now, a nutrition program at the Nangina Mission Hospital is helping the child regain strength.
Wameniambia ni chakula ya mtoto itamuongeza nguvu, pia itamuongeza afya. Na itampatia hamu ya kukula kila wakati. Na nimeona vile tumemwonjesha, ameipenda sana.
The intervention is part of efforts by the Awori Foundation and Nangina Mission Hospital to identify health needs in the community. More than 52 children were identified with severe childhood malnutrition.
Addressing malnutrition is also addressing infection to some degree, or any of the other downstream effects that when you handle it really does impact the trajectory of the child long term.
The partnership is also changing the environment in which children receive care. The difference in the pediatric ward is immediately visible. The ward has been transformed with new beds, mattresses and bedding, while colorful murals, books, toys have created a more welcoming environment for young patients and their caregivers.
When the kids come here now, they're going to see a nice, fresh place, and they're going to want to be here. And even the moms who are going to bring the kids, they're here when the kid is admitted. They're here for long. So, just having a nice place to be.
For Nangina Mission Hospital, which has served the community since 1953, the support is helping strengthen existing services.
On average, we have had at least 10 children in that ward. We believe that by making the place better, then the numbers are likely to increase. Yeah, because now the ambience has changed.
Families also received donation of clothes. Healthcare workers also received continuing medical education aimed at keeping the skills and knowledge up to date.
When we're caring for patients, it's not just one healthcare professional providing care for that patient, but it's really a team. And so I was really trying to highlight, what exactly is multidisciplinary care? How does it benefit the patient?
Former Vice President Mudia Wori, whose family has a long history of community service, says partnerships between communities, government and individuals can help address local needs without creating dependency.
Dependency is something that has made most Africa move slowly. And these days, the important thing is the word partners.
The foundation says it is exploring future support for education, libraries, schools, and community empowerment.
When we say community empowerment, it's whatever that community needs.
What can be given to any child in any resource setting, that same quality, not a variation of it, should be available to every child.
So for us, the way that you can help us, you can go to Awori Foundation. You can donate there.
Marie Ambo reporting for KBC.
And in other news, journalists and civil societies have been urged to embrace digital tools for reporting corruption cases as part of a broader effort to strengthen transparency and accountability at the county and national levels. During a workshop to assess the adoption and utilization of an action for transparency mobile application, stakeholders say digital reporting platforms help bridge the gap between citizens and institutions responsible for investigating corruption by making it possible to submit reports and complaints faster and more efficiently. Journalists present said that strengthening the media and the civil society organizations is crucial in weeding out corruption from the grassroots level.
This particular platform, it will really help us not just in storytelling, but also in the aspect of pushing for accountability as far as residents are concerned, because as journalists, we do not live in vacuum. We also live with the communities, and the services that are not being rendered well, they'll affect the normal mwananchi and as well as affect us.
Part of the implementation has been the utilization of digital tools. We have had the Wajibikaji Pamoja platform as well as the Action for Transparency app.
Tumetumia hii tool kwa njia ambayo inafaa kuhakikisha kwamba zile gaps ziko within the county in terms of development tumeweza kufikia kwa malengo ambayo tunahitaji.
Now, residents of Mutara and Kiamaringa areas in Salama Ward, Laikipia West, are appealing to the government to urgently address a worsening water crisis after the Mutara River, their main source of water, dried up. Thousands of residents and their livestock are now relying on shallow, muddy pools in the river, raising concerns over the access to safe water. Residents of Madhengenderi says the shortage has severely affected farming, forcing him to reduce the land under cultivation from about 22 acres to 5 acres. He says farmers in Kiamaringa supply produce different parts of the country, but the drying river is threatening agriculture and employment in the area. Women the brunt of the crisis, with Sarah Wanjiru saying families are being forced to spend hours. Residents are calling for the construction of a proposed Kiamaringa Dam alongside boreholes and irrigation projects will help revive the local economy.
Ni maji. Kazi tunajifanyia mzuri. Tuko na mto hapa inaitwa mto Mutara, ambayo imetoka upande ya Nyandarua, kutoka Subego, Gamini, Kiamaringa mpaka hapa. Pali yote hatupadi maji.
Mto ya Kiamaringa inalima sehemu kubwa mpaka huku chini. Na hii mto yetu, sisi ni wakulima, tunatumia hii maji, watu ya chini.
Fika mahali hakuna maji, maji inapungua kwa sababu wakulima wamekuwa wengi. Pia tungeuliza serikali yetu kama inawezekana hiyo mradi ifanywe haraka iwezekanavyo, kwa sababu hii watu sasa hata wameanza kuhama katika mahali huaga wanakaa kwa sababu ya kukosa kazi na kukosa chakula.
Serikali yetu tuko na mahali proposal ya Kiamaringa Dam, maji iwezwe kufungwa ikae pale, wakati inapotea iwekwe pale, itumie baadaye na ukulima na ya nyumba.
Residents of Paga village in Kisumu West, Kisumu County want the Paga Community Water Project expedited to alleviate their suffering. The locals who spoke during a community engagement forum regarding the project registered their displeasure at the slow pace of its implementation, claiming they have been forced to spend heavily on accessing clean water for domestic use despite their proximity to Lake Victoria. However, the Kisumu County Executive Committee member for Water, Environment and Natural Resources, Judith Oluoch, called for patience, saying a contract for the multi-million project has been procured. Once complete, the project will boost water connectivity in Kisumu's rural areas from the current 55%, which the local administration admitted remains wrongly low.
The county government has invested 50 million plus for second phase. And our work here is to building blocks with the community, so that community knows their role, the county government knows their role, and we also help to monitor the implementation of this project by the contractor.
Tuna maji hapa na hakuna faida ile ambayo tuko nayo. Sisi ndio maskini mogi yawa. Lakini tukipata maji itakuwa ni afueni kubwa kwetu sisi pamoja na yetu.
We want to commit and reassure the people of Paga that a contractor will be on site in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah, once all the due diligence processes are finalized.
The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission EACC has recovered 3.7 billion shillings in stolen assets and disrupted over 40 billion shillings in planned public fund thefts last financial year. Speaking in Mombasa County during the EACC Engagement Forum, EACC Director of Preventive Services Vincent Okongo said the commission had also strengthened its preventive measures by examining public institutions and identifying weaknesses that create opportunities for corruption. He further said over 30 billion shillings have been recovered in 10 years.
Recover corruptly acquired assets worth 3.6 billion. But if you check over 10 years or thereabout, we have recovered assets over 30 billion in this country. We have a lot of cases in court on unexplained wealth and recoveries, over 400 billion.
And recovered, then we did examinations, we reached, we also did a number of sensitization sessions, and those are broadly in terms of what we achieved.
Residents of Musalala and its environs within Kaiti constituency, Makueni County, have a reason to celebrate after the Rural Electrification and Renewable Energy Corporation (REREC) launched a 23 million shilling electrification project in the area. Speaking during the launch, the Energy Principal Secretary Alex Washira said the project is part of the government's ongoing rural electrification program, which seeks to enable residents to access reliable electricity, open up economic opportunities and improve livelihood. That 2.7 billion shillings has been set aside for rural electrification, with Kaiti constituency getting projects worth 267 million shillings to connect 3,541 households. In Kibwezi West, MP Mwenge Mutuse said the continued implementation of the rural electrification projects across the country was part of the national government's push towards universal electricity access to all regions in the country.
Wakati kuko na giza sana, unapata insecurity, hakuna security kwa sababu wakora wanajificha, huku ni local area.
Mimi nafurahia sana kuona stima. Tuliteseka sana. Hakukuwa na stima. Tunatumia hizi solar.
Katika Kenya, the national average ya zile nyumba ambazo ziko na stima ni kama 78%. Lakini hapa kwetu Kaiti, nimeelezwa kwamba katika boma 10 ni boma 3 tu labda ndio ziko na stima. Na iwezi kuendelea kuwa namna hiyo miaka 63 baada ya kupata uhuru.
Na ili mjue rais ako serious na katika kazi ya stima. Watu ambao wamewekewa stima katika hii Makueni County from mwaka wa 2022 mpaka sasa ni watu 1066.
We're taking a short breather. Don't go too far. We still have more for you, especially from the General News Desk. Business will be focusing on interviews, especially when it comes to food entrepreneurship. My guest is already in studio, so do not go too far.
Skiza, Mandy amenituma ni bring some sense into that head of yours.
Patane kotini.
Ameninyonga karibu aniue.
Halo ofisa. Naomba mfanye patrol area hii. Wacha nitajaribu kumtafuta Mandy nimpigie simu.
Umeogopa kurogwa?
Siku ngapi? 2. Shelo kakuja hapa kunichota.
Hii shamba la kanisa liko kwa jina lako binafsi.
Ndugu Muli hapa. Hata alikuwa amepitia.
Unazungumzia shamba yangu na huyu kwa nini?
Why?
By the way, unajua si vigumu pia kupotea.
Mimi labda unipige risasi Muli.
Unadhani ni rudi?
Ulishaonja pesa hizi. So hakuna pesa tamu kushinda hiyo.
Pia mimi ulinirecord.
Kwani unaonaje?
Kama ndio tabia, sasa nani atakutrust na information?
Unajua wewe na Muli ni kitu kimoja.
Gaela Tikaya la patrona. Gilda Sambendengesi.
For the of substance, mambo ni matatu. 1, KBC Channel 1. 2, 3, rumba.
Vile tu amesema rumba. Nimeingia ndani ya nyumba ndani kupatie muziki ya rumba, muziki tamu sana.
Every Saturday from 10 p.m. to midnight. Mfumo Kimbangu, the rumba supreme leader along
Tosibor mwenyewe.
Rumba ya kipede wa Kongo, KBC Channel 1 Toleka.
Well, welcome back and thank you for staying with us. We want to take you live to the Kenyatta International Convention Center, where the Deputy President is currently addressing Day 2 of the Health Summit. Let's listen in.
Through falsehoods. So this has been a heavy lifting of 4 years of hard work, national government and council of Kenya. In the last 2 days, during this afternoon, still work doing things, but the is in place. The program has now. We just things. What are the things must now work going forward? Number 1. The people. And I'm summarizing the ceremony. Also health coverage. Taifa, the people of bottom line is about people of Kenya. We come from 8 million to 32.3 million today. A great universality, because we have had a program before. We have had a called insurance cover. 8 million, 3 million. And still, I have been advanced than me in mathematics. Now around 60% coverage. 32.3 million, about 60% coverage. If you add those private medical insurance We are approaching 67 coverage. A small measure. Pair it with other countries for you. The team there, and when we or leaders of other countries visiting us, how to pull Kenyans on, because we must up the game. I'm advised that 75% is what becomes universal. We are almost there. We have achieved universality. Governor Abdiaziz and 3 other colleagues who are now in the 70 plus with Mombasa. It's 4 years ago. Today, the quality of health care is because of numbers. The Kenyans who have some cover, which is being perfected, is being fine-tuned, but at least sick, they do not have to rely on quacks, sorcerers, and manipulators, some of whom take advantage of sick people. They have a medical cover. That is what universality. We are smelling it. It's around the corner. Others are on the way. So the target at the end of this year, we are talking about 40. By the time we should be talking about 45, 46. With private medical insurance, almost every person in this country will be having a medical insurance. Tuendelee tusiendelee. People, we must carry the people. It was not possible under NHIF without a job, some ascertainable income source to be covered. Now, from the indigent to the poorest, not have anything, is a that is transformation. All of us, for the progress this far, there is still work to be treated. You've heard the numbers. I think 20 million patients who have been treated in the primary health facilities. We've had the money. We've received 27 billion so far. Care, we have disbursed 24, and 67%, almost 70%, has gone to county government facilities under the primary. Today, the sustainability and the financing of private health facilities is now becoming a reality. We still have to improve on that. The people, the number of Kenya who are covered, what they are benefiting from, and the targets for the future is one of the things we must, because these numbers are not just statistics, they are about human beings and universal. The numbers. Number 2 is the health workers. In 2022, we didn't have frontline. Some counties had community health volunteers. Others did not have. So President Ruto and the governors met and agreed to have uniformity. Today, we have an army of 107 community health promoters, paid a stipend, half by county governments, leading the war against disease in the villages and the households of Kenya. 100. And yesterday the president launched the next phase of replenishing their kits so that they can have better kits for and doing household health advice with better kits. We are also, the president has also talked about the possibility of us reviewing their staff. We have a motivated frontline army. But we also have made progress. You saw in the statistics from the president, from myself, from the minister, from the council, that we have also, national government has been able to post or to place 24,000 interns, medical interns, CHPs, medical interns, 262 registrars who have been facilitated to further their education and to specialize. But there is a commitment now which is being realized at the moment of hiring 5,000 nurses and midwives to protect especially our mothers, to make sure that we achieve that aspect of our health system. But we have also been able now to regularize the employment of 7,800. Again, work in progress. There are small things we need to fine-tune, and we've just had a discussion with the chair COG. We have agreed what we need to do on that USC to make it as seamless healthcare worker system as possible. About the people, it's about the health workers. That's what we've been talking about the last 2 days. Number is about the equipment. If you enroll people and give them a medical cover, and they have a medical health worker either coming at home as a CHP or in the hospital as a nurse, that's not enough. And by the way, Governor Abdullahi of the council was telling me there were 800 doctors, now we are talking about 5,000 doctors. I didn't know. He was also telling me when he started in Wajir, the first time as governor, he had only one doctor at the main hospital in Wajir. Today, he has doctors in Wajir, including 20 specialists within Wajir County. Is that someone? Yeah. So that is what personnel issues, that is the journey we've progress. But number 3, I said it's about equipment. You have the people, you have the health worker, but they need an interface called equipment. Therefore, through the support program, we have placed so far equipment worth 9.8 billion shillings in 239 health facilities in 44 counties of the Republic of Kenya. And that work is ongoing. Equipment you will not have imagined. CT scans, the MRIs, the lab equipment and so forth. There is a lot of equipment placement ongoing through a fee for service, whereby it is up to the person who owns the equipment to place the equipment, take care of the equipment, look for the consumables, make sure the equipment is working, maintain it, and the work of the patient is to come and get diagnosis. And once that diagnosis is done, the bill is sent to SHA, and SHA settles the bill. So it is up to the owners of the equipment to make sure the equipment is working, because if it's not working, they will not be paid for every service that they deliver. So again, this equipment thing is work in progress. We have looking forward. We need to work on level 2 and 3 a little more, so because that's where much of the early diagnosis is done. And I think that progress is something we need to be proud of. So you have the people, you have the health workers, you have the equipment. Number 4 is, and maybe this should have come earlier, the legal and institutional framework to deliver. Maybe it should have come earlier, after the people. The legal and institutional framework. That is why, and here we salute our Houses of Parliament, and we salute all of us for our various roles that we played to make sure that we have anchored this program under sound legal and institutional framework. Today, the laws are in place. The Primary Health Care Act, the Social Health Insurance Act, the Digital Health Act, and the FIFA, which is Facility Improvement Financing Act. You have the 4 laws. But we also have the funds, the 4 funds. Under the Facility Improvement Finance Act, you have the Facility Improvement Finance, which is retained at the facility to improve the quality, the service, the level of service. But we have the other 3 funds: the Primary Health Care Fund, the Social Health Insurance Fund, and the Emergency Chronic and Critical Illness Fund. Work in progress. But we also have the institutions. We have SHA, and we have the Digital Health Agency. That is the framework. And we are being told now, in terms of the future, of 2 legislations that are work in progress. One, and it was raised by the panelists, the high-level panelists who are here just now. One is the Quality of Care and Patient Safety Act, to make sure that this level of service delivery is standardized and of the highest quality. And then there's one which was mentioned by my senior here, Dr. Nyikal, the one on drug something, Kenya Drugs Authority Bill. Those 2, so that if we go into manufacturing, as we should, as we have said we should, then that is the law that will help us fine-tune that area. That is the work around legal and institutional framework. 90% done, a little bit remaining to perfect it. Then, finally, number 5, it is the commodity logistics. We've heard what KEMSA is doing to improve drug supply. We've heard how we've moved from 40% to 90% in terms of availability of the drugs which have been requisitioned. But there is need for more work around KEMSA. And one of the suggestions that came from His Excellency the President, and I have repeated it here, is that the system which KEMSA is calling integrated something, medical, what is that, MLIS something? Integrated, give him the mic. Integrated logistics.
Integrated Logistics Management Information System.
That system is good, but it must be interoperable with the data, the medical data under DHA. Because it's about supplying commodities for this system. So you cannot have all the other data separately and this data. The two systems must speak to each other. And that should happen sooner than later. And in the next IBEC, which is on Monday, or maybe the next one, some of the things we agree here, we should pick them up so that we start running with them. So about commodity supply, commodity logistics, we've made some progress. KEMSA was in disarray in 2022. We gave them 1.5 billion. We got them a line of credit of 10 billion, and we are happy with the good work that is ongoing there. But there is more work to be done around health commodities availability. But we have also 922, the National Ambulance Dispatch Center, an emergency number to provide ambulance services to patients who have emergencies, who have medical emergencies. You get the ambulance. First of all, the number is toll-free. That 922 is toll-free. Secondly, it should link you to the nearest available ambulance. And we must make sure the ambulance is available in good time to save lives. But also it is attached, that package is attached to emergency treatment. The first 24 hours of emergency treatment should not be pegged on anything. Whether someone has a cover under SHA or not, they must be stabilized as now they get registered into SHA and other things follow. So again, around commodity and medical logistics, the ambulances, the commodity availability of drugs and so forth is work in progress. Those are the 5 things: the people, the legal and institutional framework, the workers, the personnel, the equipment, medical equipment, and then the health commodities and logistics. With one enabler, those 5 things, we are fine-tuning them as we fine-tune the main enabler of those 5 pillars of our UHC is going to be digitization. The work that DHA is doing, technology, digitization of how we manage all these pillars is key and is work in progress. And this digitization will help us resolve the biggest threat, the biggest single threat to this program and to all medical insurance programs around the world: fraud. It is digitization. And what DHA is doing, that will help us fight fraud, because fraud interferes with the medical actuarials. Because the insurance is around actuarial estimates. How many people are paying how much? How many people get sick? What are the benefits like? What is being paid out? Fraud interferes with the health of the actuarials. So DHA has the solution. The sustainability factor is going to be around digitization, technology, and making sure that we fight fraud. Thank you very much. God bless you for your time, and I think we are in a good place. But there is a session coming at 2:30, around there, the minister will announce what time, where His Excellency the President want to come and listen to what all the participants consider to be the takeaway. What is the take home? What is the experience? What is the agenda around the issues we are raising? Then he will give now the final strategic address, which will now send us back to our workstations. Ifaya Sifaya. Minister Duale.
Thank you so much.
Well, there you have it. That is the country's second in command addressing this second day of the Health Summit. He has just confirmed that President William Ruto will be gracing that particular event, of course, to close it, given that today is the last day later this afternoon. As and when we get those links, we'll be sharing them now. To more news now, hundreds of grade 10 and Form 1 students, beneficiaries of this year's Elimu Scholarship Program, have been cautioned against indulging in drugs and substance abuse, as well as giving into peer pressure. The appeal came during a one-day Jomo Kenyatta Foundation Annual Achievers Summit at Garissa High School, where the foundation's county coordinator Nelson Olo urged the learners to set their goals well and maintain good character in the long run to become responsible citizens. The program is a Kenyan government initiative funded by the World Bank and managed by the Ministry of Education through the Jomo Kenyatta and Equity Foundation.
We have also emphasized the dangers of drugs and substance abuse, which can undermine a young person's education, health, relationships and future.
Tafadhalini vijana wetu, mkuwa role model. Vijana mzuri, msichana mzuri, mutie amri ya Mwenyezi Mungu Subhanahu wa Ta'ala.
Education without reputation or education without good morals is incomplete.
They bring up motivation, encouragement, and because of them, I'm disciplined now and I know where I'm heading to. I want to be an internal surgeon, a surgeon when I grow up. That's why I'm taking pure science. Thank you.
Now to our other tragic turn of events, a somber mood has gripped Magagani village in Dabaso Ward, Malindi sub-county on Tuesday as detectives and forensic experts exhumed the body of a 50-year-old woman believed to have been brutally murdered and secretly buried by her son about a week ago. Malindi sub-county police commander Moses Kuskei confirmed that the main suspect, 32-year-old Tumaini Masha Jali, was arrested on Saturday after family members filed a missing persons report and raised suspicions against him. Koskei said detectives found the woman's clothes scattered in the compound and upon further inspection discovered a shallow grave behind the deceased woman's blockhouse. Now the victim's body was moved to the Malindi Sub-County Hospital mortuary ahead of a post-mortem examination.
Wakati fika huko tukapata sasa kuna kaburi ilikuwa imechimbwa karibu na hapo, that we suspect a foul play. Mshukiwa mwenyewe ndio kijana wa mama.
We are intending to do postmortem which will confirm the actual cause of the death, and then thereafter the boy will be charged in court so that justice can be found for the deceased.
Tulikuja kupata habari siku ya Jumamosi ya kwamba ameuawa, ndiposa siku ya Jumamosi tukakuja mbio kuja kuangalia kwamba ameuawa.
Nilisikia nduru nikiwa kwangu kwa sababu si mbali na hapa, kukimbia nikaja nikapata hao watoto wanasema shangazi, mama hatumpati na tumeona kitu.
Here's the latest in business. Kenya and the European Union are racing to finalize a data protection adequacy pact to help unlock European investment in Kenya's fledgling digital industry. If the pact is signed, it will make Kenya the first African country to qualify for the status. Information and Communication Principal Secretary John Tanui says the recognition will ease the flow of personal data between Kenya and the EU.
Kenya is seeking to secure an EU adequacy decision for its data protection framework, a process the government says has taken more than 3 years. ICT and Digital Economy Principal Secretary John Tanui says the political process within the European Union is expected to begin next month. If successful, Kenya would become the first African country to secure the recognition, allowing personal data to flow between Kenya and the EU with few additional safeguards.
We are equally advancing on data adequacy. This is compliance on issues of data protection, personal data protection, and we want to achieve the level of EU standard, and we've gone through a very rigorous process which has taken us more than 3 years.
This, he says, will particularly benefit small businesses seeking to serve European clients while positioning Kenya as a competitive destination for global business services.
Kenya would be the 29th EU country in digital terms. That's the recognition level that we've reached, and it has taken a lot of effort going through the rigorous process and ensuring that our legislation, the policies are compliant.
Kenya is positioning itself to benefit from the rapid growth of AI and cloud computing, already hosting about half of East Africa's live data center capacity. The government is also finalizing an AI and emerging technologies policy focused on safeguards for data protection, ethics, risks, and algorithmic bias. Trevor Nyendo for Lunchtime News. Kenya plans to import 25 million bags of maize to bridge a looming maize deficit occasioned by poor long rains this year. The government says reduced harvest in several food-producing counties is expected to create a shortfall of nearly 25 million bags. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe says the arrangements for the imports are already in place to cushion Kenyans from possible hungers.
Maize is a key staple food in Kenya, with the country consuming about 75 million bags annually. However, production has been affected by drought and other climate-related challenges, with reduced harvests in several food-producing regions expected to create a shortfall of nearly 25 million bags.
The reason why I think there is that concern is because of the climatic conditions that we are experiencing. For example, there is a drought within most of the areas where we grow our maize. And these are some of the things we are talking about transformation. For example, over-reliance on rain-fed agriculture. It is time for us to move more into irrigation and irrigation-fed agriculture.
Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe says the government has already made arrangements to import the maize, assuring Kenyans that measures are in place to safeguard food supplies and prevent a shortage.
Yes, we will import maize. We have already made arrangements for that. So it's not a big deal. We will manage. The country is not going to go hungry.
While the imports are expected to address the immediate gap, the government says it is also working to increase local production and reduce the impact of weather-related disruptions on farming.
Looking at the challenges that we have within the agricultural sector and how to do a number of things. Number one is how to be more productive. In other words, each farmer to produce more than they have been producing within the same setup that they have got.
Among the measures being pursued is the expansion of irrigation through projects such as Galana Kulalu, aimed at increasing agricultural production and reducing reliance on rainfall. At the same time, plans are underway to roll out a program which will focus on increasing farm productivity, value addition, and creating jobs through agriculture to make farming more productive and attractive to young people.
And the reason why we keep on talking about job creation is because it will inform policy decisions that we have to make in the agricultural sector.
Ndota Mukami for Lunchtime News.
Equity Bank Kenya has sealed a deal with Proto Energy to unlock financing for motorists and institutions keen on shift to LPG for cooking or powering their vehicles. The financing is expected to support investment in LPG infrastructure, equipment installation and related solutions, helping institutions overcome the significant upfront cost associated with transitioning off LPG.
About 20,000 vehicles in Kenya that had been converted to autogas by the end of 2024. The latest deal between Equity Bank Kenya and Proto Energy seeks to accelerate the transition to autogas and double the number of autogas converted vehicles to 40,000.
We are offering you a solution that you'll be able to pay less but actually get more value out of it. The substitution that we are looking here for our those in the transport business or those with vehicles is that we'll give you a cheaper energy source, but it actually has more calorific value.
Proto Energy is expected to provide the technical expertise and conversion solutions to dual-fuel autogas systems, while Equity Bank will provide the financing to make the transition more affordable and accessible to vehicle owners.
Equity will stand for is then to facilitate you through that conversion process, and we've readied ourselves to ensure that it's as seamless and less painful through that.
The deal also targets to help educational institutions and other organizations shift from cooking using firewood or charcoal to LPG.
The beauty of it is that agreement today we are signing is not just an MOU about the things we want, but it's mostly about a transition where we want to transition to cleaner energy, more affordable, but more so that we are telling Kenyans that you cannot have barriers for you to have that access. And we want to help the institutions that are using diesel, firewood, HFOs, and all those other fuels to move to cleaner energy.
Ezekiel Owino reporting for Lunchtime News.
Elsewhere, Equity Group has reported 45.5 billion shillings in the net profit during the first 6 months of this year, representing a 32% increase that was driven by a sharp rise in non-funded income. Total income increased 25% to 124.9 billion shillings, powered by non-funded income, which expanded 36% to 55.6 billion shillings. Total assets expanded 20% to 2.16 trillion shillings, driven by a 19% growth in the loan book to 981 billion shillings. Equity Group has not recommended any interim dividend payout to shareholders.
The market has responded well. But we feel an organization growing 40% in profit, single-digit NPLs should not be trading at book value.
Also on the quality of those ROEs in which they expand, and that speaks again to what we're doing on the non-funded income side, but also the operational leverage we are seeing in the business with the cost to income coming down. As we digitize, as we put in place more technology into the business, you'll see a lot more operational leverage, i.e. revenue growing much faster than costs because of the digital nature of how we generate our revenue streams.
Standard Chartered Bank Kenya has announced a 16.8% drop half-year net profit to 6.7 billion shillings, weighed down by lower interest income. Despite the reduction in profits, the lender has recommended an interim dividend payout of 8 shillings and 50 cents per share, which is 50 cents more than what the bank offered shareholders during a similar period last year.
Standard Chartered Bank Kenya plans to spend 3.29 billion shillings on interim dividends after proposing to pay 8 shillings and 50 cents per share to shareholders next month. This is despite a reduction in profits by 16.83% to 6.7 billion shillings. Net interest income fell 19.8% to 12.3 billion shillings as lower rates and margin pressures offset growth in lending volumes. This was mainly driven by a 14.2% decline in interest income on loans and advances and a 34.9% reduction on interest income on government securities. Overall, the lender increased net loans and advances to customers from 152.2 billion shillings to 169.2 billion shillings, driven by growth in transaction banking and wealth solutions. This was key in pushing up Standard Chartered Bank Kenya's total assets by 12.4% to 418.1 billion shillings. On the other hand, the gross non-performing loans reduced 6.4% to 8.97 billion shillings, prompting the lender to reduce the loan loss provision by 57% to 508 million shillings. Customer deposits increased 9% to 309 billion shillings, driven by growth in corporate deposits. Benson Rioba reporting for Lunchtime.
Kenya Airways is staring at major losses this year as a US-led war on Iran takes a toll on the global cost jet fuel. KQ says the cost of jet fuel has jumped by 70%, eating into the carrier's profitability. KQ Chief Executive Officer George Kama says fuel now accounts for up to 50% of all costs incurred by the airline. The national carrier is also battling with a severe shortage of aircraft spare parts and delayed deliveries of new planes.
Global fuel markets have been moody this year following the US-led attack on Iran, which has led to the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, where 25% of all global oil shipments pass through. This has led to a major spike in airline operational costs, directly affecting airlines' profitability since fuel is one of the largest operating expenses. National carrier Kenya Airways says that the conflict has increased its overheads by 72%.
Conflict, 72% impact on fuel. So we have a 72% increase of fuel price on KQ and on Africa in general. We are lucky in Kenya. Not only lucky, we're privileged. Why? We have always fuel 20 days, 30 days, 45 days.
Acting Kenya Airways Chief Executive Officer George Kamal says the airline's turnaround strategy is still heavily anchored on cargo expansion, contract reviews, and a search for a strategic investor. The aviation industry is also facing spare parts delivery delays due to high demand and shortage of key components and raw materials, especially rare earth minerals.
Spare engines, it's not Kenya Airways. When you speak about availability of those parts worldwide, it's a global issue.
Kenya Airways says that 2 of its grounded aircraft are currently awaiting engines, while 4 are already undergoing service. Management targets having the airline's entire fleet fully operational in 2027 as global original equipment manufacturer supply chains begin to ease. KQ is eyeing full profitability by the close of the year, even as external and systematic pressures continue to weigh heavily on the balance sheet. Alan Auko, Lunchtime News.
Here's the latest in the world of sports. A 4-time world champion Faith Kipyegon leads Kenya's charge as the Diamond League heads to the Coliseum this weekend, with athletes battling for crucial points ahead of next month's season finale in Brussels. Kipyegon remains in contention for qualification in the women's 1,500 meters and 5,000 meters, while Olympic champion, that is Emmanuel Wanyonyi, has already secured his place in the Brussels final after his record-breaking 1,000 meters run in Monaco. Other Kenyans already through to Brussels include Timothy Cheriot in the 1,500 Faith Cherotich and Simon Kiprop Koech in the steeplechase, and teenage sensation Edmund Serem. Several others, including Wycliffe Kinyamal and Abraham Kibiwot, remain in contention.
I think she can. History beckons for the Kenyan captain. Leading from the front, leading by example. Take a moment to savour these images. We've never seen anybody win 3 in a row, and now we have...
And as I told you a little bit earlier on in our interview portion this afternoon, we're focusing on food entrepreneurship and how crucial it is to the country's economic growth. Remember, this is a vibrant, growing sector driven by rising urban population, especially with the current generation we're living in that is driven by technology. So how is the sector faring on, and how is it addressing some of the key challenges? Of course, we have one person who has been very crucial to that particular sector is none other than Wangui Ndegwa, the Chief Executive Officer of Amka Foods. Wangui, good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon, Dave. Thank you so much for having me.
And maybe we start on that note, Wangui. Just tell us, how is the sector faring on in relation to the business that you're running?
I think it's doing all right, but it could be better. And especially when you are at different parts of the value chain. We are in hospitality because we run Cafe Amka,
Yes.
but we are also in production, we are in value addition. And our biggest challenge, of course, is if the economy is suffering or struggling, then you can tell by how much people are spending. But moving back when it comes to value addition, so you're not able to really move a lot of your products, nor are you then able to support the farmers that you really want to in that.
And talk to us about that, because what you're talking about is very unique, running a business and also contributing to the value chain.
Right.
In terms of what you have been able to gather, handling those two key sectors that is contributing to the country's economic growth, what are those indicators you have seen might hamper what you're delivering to the consumer at the end of the day?
Price. The more things get expensive, the more you're forced to actually push that to the consumer. And so again, the consumer becomes the one who struggles as you also get back to struggling. So it's really hard to balance those two things, being in the value chain, because you have to understand and be cautious of what it is. And value adding does not necessarily mean that you must make something expensive. And those are the challenges we have, is because if you're looking at the fuel, when you're value adding anything, then your output is already impacted. Because for you to value add, possibly you're doing packaging. Packaging is quite expensive. Let's say you're roasting, in our case, we are roasting coffee, then it becomes quite expensive. At the end of the day, the final product becomes quite expensive. And then there you start to understand, do you compromise on your premium product, or do you find ways to balance and still maintain the best product and still give the best output to your consumer? So, yeah.
And what are some of the benefits you have seen, given that you clearly talked about how the sector is faring on, and if the economy is doing well, that means businesses are doing well at the end of the day. So what are some of the benefits you've seen handling those two key issues, running a business and also contributing to the value chain?
I would say for us, it's been a beautiful journey. I'll give an example. When we started off with possibly very little in terms of how many coffees we were moving or pushing forward. Our cup has been consistently becoming better, first of all. So what have we been contributing to the economy or to our people? First, we have been introducing some of the best coffees in Kenya, number one, moving from a 3% sort of like people have only been drinking coffee or understanding coffee in more like, oh, it's just another drink. But what we've been doing is pushing those numbers from your 3%, and we're engaging and trying to get people to actually understand this product from 3 to 5, about 5%. How do you do that? If people are learning about what they produce, we are a producing country, then there is more value in what they will give. They will consume, not just consume, but they will love what they actually consume. Secondly, this impacts completely back to the farmer, because you're not just looking at the export market, you're looking at also a market that is growing internally. And how do you do that? Is this product not just becoming any other product? It should be part of our lives. It should be a culture. And it's something that we must learn from, let's say, people like Ethiopia. They consume over 50% of their production, but in Kenya, it's quite the opposite. We only produce about 3%. We actually consume only about 3%, yet we do produce quite a good number. Similarly to our teas, right? We export majority of our teas as bulk, and we only value at about 4% of that tea, and only consume also around 5% of the same. So what does this mean? If there's anything that impacts outside, we are stuck. Our farmers are stuck. So where do I play in this space?
Yes.
We run a coffee shop, or we run a cafe. We currently house some of the best coffees in the world. We have just won the best barista in the barista championship. We've just won. Our Kennedy Owino, who's our head barista, has just won that cup. But that is more than a win. It shows that when we have more value than just the product, but also the people, then there is clear impact from what you serve at the level of the table, you as a consumer, what you understand, why you will come back for the product, and then what I also work out to give the farmer. I'm able to pay him a little bit more, even regardless of how the economy is faring. But there's also skill sets in the middle, whereby baristas or every other person involved in the value chain becomes quite strong, and these skills can also be pushed out, not just within the continent, but also outside.
Yeah, because there's that misconception that many Kenyans, if you just talk to them, they will say we are producing the best coffee, but we're selling it outside the country, and we're not consuming it. What we're remaining here with the country is the quality cannot be compared to what we're exporting. So in addressing some of those misconceptions, do you come across it? Do you hear about it?
Yes, it's not a misconception, it's the truth. And this is why we must be intentional at producing countries. We cannot be left with what is not the best. We must first be able to consume our very best. Because when you go outside, you hear that Kenya has the best coffee, it has the best teas. Then when you come to the country, you're still looking for that amazing cup. And you're wondering, if outside I can be in London and I can drink a really amazing cup of coffee, and it has the possible identity of Kenya, but I come to Kenya, I'm still struggling to get that perfect cup. Doesn't it mean that we must look now inwards? So that our value is not by us being consumed outside, but by us being able to consume what we produce, understand and tell our stories, own this ourselves first. Then when we retell, you can sell what you know. But if a Kenyan today does not know their own coffee, they only hear about it, then how will the world then also love it to an extent of saying, oh, wow, you guys, and how will you innovate? How do you grow to become more than just a coffee pusher or a producer that only sells? We have to learn from, let's say, markets like, let's say, France, right? Let's say, wine. Look at their wine. Everybody or most people understand. Why? Because it produces their pride. And that is how we must start looking at what we produce, primarily in the big things that we really are known for, like our teas or coffee. Of course, there's so many other products. But we must, first of all, within the country, understand, learn, embrace, make it part of our culture, that no one from the outside can tell you how good it is before you understand and taste it. It's just the other day that our farmers have been able to even taste their own cup of coffee. It was always going outside. We did not roast it. We did not taste it. It's now that they are able to taste and say, wow, that's how my coffee tastes. And what has happened with that? We are able to come up with new ways, innovative ways, and catch up with the rest of the world when it comes to the space. Why? You can have your carbonic macerated coffees, which are highly, highly sought after. What does that mean? You start to say, my coffee is really good. How do I improve the quality? How do I improve my cup? But how can you improve something that you do not know? That you blindly just produce and then you sell out? But once you start to understand it, you own it. It becomes part of you. You love it from seed to the end of it. So when the farmer starts that journey differently, when he looks at it, it's not destitution. He's not just growing a cup. He's not growing for the money. He's growing for pride. There is an identity, traceability back. He will protect it. He will not cut it off. Right now, we've lost a lot of coffee. Why? Because the farmer just wasn't protected. He didn't understand what he was growing. He didn't have the capacity to even embrace it. But he would have fought for it if he had that understanding. And it's not just in coffee. It should go into each and everything that we produce. We must have that sort of like deep, connection with it. So that when you wake up and you're going to till your land, when you're going to plant, there is that, wow, this is for me. And then later, when it gives you value, you're like, yes, I did this. Not I just grew. Then now let's sell. And yeah, so I think there must be a different conversation or a different look on how we approach agricultural products. Their life, they feed into people's souls. And that intentionality, from the first time you put the seed, will be felt. It will be felt at the end of the day. There's going to be consistency. Why do we complain about consistency? It's because how can you be consistent of something you don't know? No, but if I know my cup tastes like this, how do I improve it? How do I continue to make it taste like this? So I'll be intentional about it. I'll say, let me not use a fertilizer this time. Let me do this. Let me till this land. Let me crop, do all these things that will allow me to have this final product. So we must be growing with the thought of the final product and have that connection, I think. Yes.
Well said. And of course, talking to us about, because there are so many entrepreneurs who are watching you right now, talk to them in terms of access to financial capital, because starting a business is not easy. Getting access to such funds that you require to run that business is also equally not easy. But in terms of navigating that pool to ensure that the banks at the end of the day support your venture, what do they need to do?
I think it's interesting you asked about access to funds. We can all start businesses. I think the question needs to change into how do we sustainably grow, scale. You can get access to funds right now. The biggest challenge has not been primarily even starting a business, because you can start small. People are starting from their own kitchens. The biggest challenge has been scaling. And how do you pay back? Because the cost of capital in Kenya is still pretty high. And as a small, when you're starting at any level, you're asking to be funded. And once it comes in, how much more can you pay out? What will you have to do to ensure that you're able to pay this back? So I don't think the biggest challenge has been actually access to capital. I think it's how do we scale? How do we grow sustainable markets? Access to market is one of the biggest problems. Because right now we can all start a business with the smallest that we have, but how do we get this customer that continues to pay so that we can pay back what was given to us? What are the channels that we have brought out that allow and actually give us that roadmap to understand that today I have 10, but I can do distribution. How can I do this distribution? And then how can I then be able to scale my business so that I can make enough money to pay the bank and also grow financially and economically so I can sustain this business. So for me, I think there's still a lot more that needs to be done, even with the banks. As they're trying to give us capital or give entrepreneurs capital, and us writing very good plans, because you need a plan when you're going to the bank, but you also need collateral sometimes. You need to be backed. How many of us have collateral? And that is from something I have experienced personally. You want to scale, you have let's say an order. You will go to the bank and they tell you, I can only service it from here to here. Now you ask, how do I get to service this? Because the plan, can you look at the end road and say, okay, Koi, you want to scale from one bag, you want to do a container. It's a lot of money. But apart from the plan, how do I then walk that journey so that I don't lose, my start, but I have I continue to have 2 employees, possibly 3 and 4. That should be a journey that even those who give the capital should walk with us or any of the entrepreneurs. So I think the discussion needs to change from just giving capital, but also empowering how to scale up, how to get the markets, and how to grow. Yeah.
Maybe as we conclude finally, in terms of, because the young people in universities right now, many of them are not opting to go into agriculture. You passionately talked about how agriculture has not only anchored what you're doing in your business, but has helped the country at the end of the day. What would you tell that young person who sees agriculture like a no venture for them?
I would say agriculture there's more to agriculture than farming. I think that's also a misconception that most people have, right? And the young people have to come on board and see what part can they play in the sector, because it is a sector, and does not primarily need you to have a farm. This is because our average farmer today is about 56 years old. So how many of the young people have land that they can actually grow plants or crops and actually be able to say, I can sell these crops? So I think first of all is to change what we think agriculture is, and for the young to see that there is more in the agricultural sector. There is the value addition part. Who is going to do the packaging? And you're talking about that. What about the skills in? And I'll give you a very good example of someone like Kennedy Owino. I'll give you a perfect example that could be something that possibly the young could look into. You have Kennedy Owino started as, he started as someone within the system of hospitality. The crop didn't change, which was coffee, but his skill grew. And what did that mean? That he became a professional. Now he's one of the best baristas that you can actually find in the world, actually. Why? He's won twice in the championship of Best in Africa. But in Kenya, he's also won this time and will be presenting to the world in Panama. What does that mean? It's not, he's in the agricultural space, but he's not a farmer. What he has done, he has presented what the farmer has produced, and he's taking this to the world stage. We have our farmer, David Baguta, who is amazing in innovation. What is he doing with coffee? He's not just doing washed coffee, he's doing your carbonic macerated coffees, he's doing red room, solutions whereby if the farmer's weather is bad today, he can still actually dry his coffee from inside the room slowly and meticulously be able to control the final cup. And what is this going to mean for us in the future? That the young people are not only going to be the ones to just farm, take and sell. No, they're the ones to determine what is this going to be, what's the value of this final product? Can it be sold from $5 to about $10? And you can see that completely with just the professionalism, the skills that we are able to put up. And also putting and adding value in that. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Unfortunately, you've run out of time. Thank you so much, Wangui Ndegwa, the Chief Executive Officer of Amka Foods. Thank you for making time for us this afternoon. And I'm being informed that any moment from now, President William Ruto will be gracing the Kenyatta International Convention Center for the closing of the Health Summit. Today is day 2. The Deputy President was addressing a little bit earlier on. Don't go too far, that and so much more. My name is Abdiaziz Hashim. The sign language interpreter at the bottom end of the screen is Anne Wangeshi. Good afternoon.
More than ready.
Always replace those who have left us.
Hivyo ndo nafanyaga rafiki zako.
Is a servant in order to save the queen.
Cheki. Dave, acha kuniongelesha kizungu mingi, sawa? Unataka nini hapa?
Gentlemen, Sam has left us.
Hey, Marvin, hiyo hapana. Nimekataa.
Hashim, sit down.
I'm sorry.
The wrong food.
Marvin, I like this guy. I like this guy.
Lights on, volume up. This is where stories come alive. From local drama that hits close